Yeah, the sound that you are hearing right now, I don't know if any of you is actually hearing the sound. Many of you think you're not hearing anything, but the sound that you are actually hearing right now, yes, there is a sound you are hearing right now, folks. This is the sound of the gloves coming off. That's what you're hearing right now. I'm going to tell you between today and tomorrow. First of all, I'm going to tell you today why Kamala is going to win 2024. And then tomorrow, before you get mad at me, I'm going to tell you why Trump is going to win. Okay, so before anybody gets alarmed, what I'm about to tell you here today, this is a bipartisan platform. Work on Your Game is a bipartisan platform. I have no political affiliation. When I vote, I'm doing the write-in. I'm voting for myself. All right, so that's who I'm voting for this year. In case any of you wants to know, this is a bipartisan platform. I am not affiliated with any political party. The only thing we're affiliated with is performance, consistency, and results. Just to make sure everybody is clear on that. What I'm going to do today, as I just told you, I'm going to tell you why Kamala is going to win the 2024 presidential election. And tomorrow, I'm going to tell you why Donald Trump is going to win the 2024 election. Now, why am I doing this? Why am I telling you both sides of the story, or both sides, giving you both angles of this situation? The reason why I'm doing this is because a critical thinker has the ability to argue both sides of a point, even if they have a strong opinion on one side of the point. Any of you knows anyone who works in the legal space, especially lawyers who like trial lawyers, they had to be really good at, of course, understanding their side and defending their client or prosecuting whatever the case is, but also they need to know the strong points and the weak points of their opponent's position and their opponent's case, because their opponent is still going to come out there and make their case. So the better you understand it, the better you can make their point. So this is a form of what we call the steel man argument. So the steel, my mic's not on? Oh, shit. My bad, Instagram. So wait a minute, I gotta start it over. Thank you. Thanks, John Clark. I forgot to put the mic on. Okay, so now we're on. All right, so now let me say what I was just saying all over again. For those of you on TikTok, LinkedIn, what's the other one? Facebook and YouTube and Rumble. Let me say this again because I didn't have a mic on for Instagram. So before you all get alarmed, again, let me say it again, that today I'm going to do both sides of this. So today I'm going to tell you why Kamala is going to win the election, and tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump is going to win. And the reason why I'm doing this is because a critical thinker has the ability to argue both sides of a situation. And yeah, I know YouTube, I know y'all can hear me, but Instagram, there's a certain mic that I use for Instagram I didn't have on. That's why Instagram couldn't hear me. So I got to repeat what I was just saying quickly. And again, I'm going to give both sides of this. Today, I'm going to tell you why Kamala is going to win. I'm going to give you 5 specific reasons. And tomorrow, I'm going to tell you why Trump is going to win. And I'm also going to give you 5 specific reasons why each candidate will win, specifically based on their situation and based on the things that we know. And again, a critical thinker, even if they have a strong opinion on one side of an argument, is able to make the argument on the other side, even though they may have, again, a strong opinion one way or another. And a good trial lawyer, for example, needs to understand what the other side is going to say, even if you think the other side is wrong. Let's say you're Johnny Cochran, you're defending OJ, and you need to know what the prosecution is going to try to say because you need to be able to defend against it. So it's kind of like you're playing football. You scout the other team before the game, so you know what they like to do and you know what they're going to try to do so that you're not surprised by anything that they do actually execute during the game. That's the whole point. So what I'm going to give you here is both sides, regardless of what side you are on. I'm sure many of you have strong opinions on this, which is why I'm talking about it. All right, everybody got this? Today is Kamala. Tomorrow is Trump. Everybody got it. All right, nobody get mad at me because I'm talking about why the candidate that maybe you don't like is going to win, and don't get excited when I talk about the candidate that you do like is going to win, because I'm not here to persuade you. I'm just here to tell you what's happening and why it's happening. So just in case your candidate loses, you know why. All right, that's what I'm going to tell you here today. So everybody understand everything that I just said here. And by the way, for those of you who are relatively new around here, let's say you've come across my material in the less than the last 3 or 4 years. In 2020, I did this exact same thing. In 2020, I did back-to-back live streams. And at that time, I think I was only live streaming on Instagram and probably Facebook. And then I put the recordings up on YouTube, where I did one where I said, here's why Donald Trump is going to win. Then I did another one where I said, here's why Joe Biden is going to win. And then I got a bunch of comments on YouTube. Of course, people came and commented on the Donald Trump one after Joe Biden was declared the winner. And they said, well, LOL, you're dumb, you're wrong. This one didn't age well. You know how people, they come in and say that stuff. But none of them realized that I had done 2 live streams. And then even on the Trump one, before the outcome was decided, a bunch of people who are supporters of Trump, they came in and left a whole bunch of comments like happy because I said that Trump was going to win. So I bet the same thing is going to happen with these ones, but I'm giving this disclaimer up front so nobody can tell me that I was quote unquote wrong, because again, this is not it is a prediction, but it's really not a prediction because I'm arguing both sides of it. So I'm hedging my bet because no matter what happens, either way, I end up being right. One of them is going to end up being wrong and one of them is going to be right. So I'm going to give you the reasons in general, followed by my explanations of the reasons. You're ready for these reasons? Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 reasons why Kamala is going to win the election. Number 1, people hate Donald Trump. This is reason number 1. If Kamala wins the election in 2024, that's the one that's coming up in a couple weeks from when I'm recording this, the main reason, the number 1 reason why she will win is because a bunch of people hate Donald Trump. All right, this is not, I think most of you understand this, whether you want to accept it or not. This is one of the main reasons why she's going to win. And let me explain that in more detail. Many people have been deeply, not even a little bit, but deeply indoctrinated over the last 10 years. Let's just say from the year 2015, when Trump declared that he was going to get into the race. He won the election in 2016, became president officially in 2017, all the way up through 2024, inclusive. That's 10 years. Over the last 10 years, there are many people out there, some of you who are listening to me right now, who have been so deeply indoctrinated of all the negative things that have been said about him that you have come to accept them as truth, whether they are or not. You come to accept them as truth. And that is a strong enough reason for you to vote against him, regardless of who is running. If it wasn't Kamala, if it was a ham sandwich, you will vote for the ham sandwich because you so much have been indoctrinated to hate Donald Trump. Or maybe you just believe that you have rationally and logically come to a conclusion to hate Donald Trump. Either way, what actually has happened is you've been indoctrinated. But whether you want to that you actually came to this from a logical conclusion, you probably didn't. But okay, believe whatever it is that you want to believe. So again, some of you listen right now. Again, I'm not mad at anyone who thinks this way, that you just hate this guy, you think he's a terrible guy, you know all the things that have been said about him, or the things that you believe about him, or you believe you have the facts or the information or the data back up these beliefs that you have about him. Here's one thing that we know for truth, let's just say, when it comes to human nature, is that emotion overpowers logic every day of the week and twice on Sunday. This applies to all humans, regardless of what the subject is. You are much more driven by your emotions than you are by thinking. So oftentimes you'll hear someone say something that is emotion based and you question them on it, and they'll give you all these logical reasons why they believe it, or why it's true, or why it's quote unquote facts, and why you can't go back against it. But really your emotions made the decision and they just came up with any logical justification. And here's the good news or bad news, depending on who you are and what the subject is. You can come up with a logical justification for any emotional decision, even if that decision is a really bad decision. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this referring to Trump or Kamala Harris. I'm saying anything in life. How many of you have ever made a bad decision based on emotion, and then you came up with a bunch of logical justifications for that decision, and then later on, maybe weeks, days, or years later, you realize, that was a bad decision that I made then. But at the time, you had convinced yourself that it was a good decision because you came up with a bunch of logical justifications for it. We all do this. All human beings are susceptible to this. And this subject right here is no exception. Everyone is susceptible to this, depending on what you decide to listen to, depending on what you decide to believe, and depending on what was already in your head before you started hearing these other things from the outside world. All right, emotions overpower logic in all human beings most of the time. So I understand this. If you have decided that you just hate this guy and no matter who runs, you're going to vote for him. I said this in 2020 when I did my video on why Joe Biden was going to win the 2020 election. My first point was that people hate Donald Trump. The main reason that he was going to win was that people hated Trump. The second main reason why he was going to win, and second main reason why he did, was because of the virus that was going on. And that virus would have made anybody look bad because it affected everybody. So it wasn't like something that only affected women or black people or immigrants or anything like that. It affected everybody. And there were negative things coming from it. And all the person who's the challenger had to do was use the current situation against the incumbent, which is exactly what Joe Biden did, is what he should have did. If I was working in the Joe Biden campaign, I would have told him, just use the virus against Trump. All you got to do is just keep the net And that is, if you win, that's going to be the reason why you win. And that was the reason why he won. And Joe Biden doesn't really have fans. How many people are actually a fan of Joe Biden? Nobody really likes Joe Biden, but they hate Trump. And the dislike of Trump is strong enough to help the other candidate win. And if Kamala wins, this is going to be the main reason, again, same way that it was in 2020. So this indoctrination against Trump has been an excellent strategy that has been utilized by the Democratic Party for, again, they've been using the strategy for 10 years. Now, it failed in 2016. It succeeded in 2020. And actually, we can't even say that it failed. In 2016, it failed in that, of course, Clinton didn't win. Trump won. But it still made a whole bunch of people hate him. If you all who were around in 2016, you remember after that election, I live in Miami, Florida. And in Miami, after he won that election, there were people who I know personally who were out protesting in the streets after he won the election as if they were protesting "Not My President." You remember that? The "Not My President" marchers. And then you had the women's march where they were walking around with the pink pussy hats. Hopefully I can say that word on TikTok. They were walking around with those pink hats. They had those marches down here in Miami after he won the election. Nobody was questioning whether he had won or not. I mean, of course, Clinton put out the Russia stuff, but for the most part, people accepted that he had won. But people are really upset about that. And even though he won the election, the Democratic Party was still successful in indoctrinating a bunch of people to believe that this guy is terrible, hateful, and he's going to dismantle the country and the Constitution. And what's the other things they're saying? He's going to destroy democracy, all these things. They said that in 2016. Now, here we are in 2024. None of those things happened, but people still believe it. And as you can see, they're running the same playbook in this election. The point being, even though, again, he won, it was still a successful campaign because people still have these same beliefs about him to this very day. And the day that he passes away, not that I'm wishing this on him, but the day he passes away, people are going to celebrate even more than people did when that guy from the Taliban over there, when he died. I don't know if I can say his name on TikTok. You know what I'm talking about. His initials are OBL, the guy who caused 9/11. When he passed away or he got killed, there was celebration. People celebrated like this was a big deal. When Trump passes, it's going to be the exact same thing. Why? Because of this indoctrination. So people have been taught that this guy is, again, he is a racist. He's going to destroy democracy. We heard that. He's going to be a dictator. And again, people take the stuff out of context that he said, and then they say, well, it's a fact. He said it. Here's the video. Or any other negative thing you can come up with him. You don't have to look far to find this material. Look around social media, every app, there's plenty of it. And they've used this as supportive evidence why to never support this guy and to hate him. And again, whoever he's running against, just vote for that person because we can't let this person come into power again because this is going to happen, that's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of you understand that this is the issue. All of you understand this is one of the reasons. Again, some of you are on the Harris side and you actually want Harris to win because you support Harris. Some of you are on the Trump side and you want Trump to win because you support Trump. But we all can agree to this point that most of the people who are voting Harris is not because you love Harris. And tomorrow we'll talk about that. It's because you hate Trump. All right, that's the number one reason. Number two, we're talking here today. And by the way, I'll take questions and comments at the end. So when I get through all this, I'll take all questions and comments. I know it's going to be a lot of them. Number two, why Kamala will win the 2024 election. There are many people out there who are excited to see a woman and a minority win the presidency. And Kamala Harris, we can agree that she's a woman and we can agree she's a minority. Now, what type of minority she is a different conversation. I'll talk about that tomorrow. But we can agree she is a minority. All right? She does have brown skin, so she is brown. We'll just call her brown. We're not even going to get into the black thing. I will get into it tomorrow. We're not going to get into it today. But she's a woman and a minority, and there are people out there who just want to see a woman and minority ascend to the presidency just because. And this is what we call identity politics, meaning you want to see someone get to a certain position just because of their immutable characteristics, female, black or brown, any type of, I guess you could just say those two because other ones are more personal choices. And I'm not a big fan of identity politics, even though it worked on me. I got to admit, it worked on me in 2008 with Barack Obama. I wanted Obama to win. I actually didn't even vote for Obama in 2008. I didn't vote at all because I was overseas playing basketball in Germany, and I did not go through the paperwork process to be able to vote. But when he won, I was happy that he won, and I supported. I mean, I didn't do anything, but I was looking forward to him winning. Just because he was a black guy. I wanted to see a black guy win the presidency. I didn't care about his policies, and I didn't really do any type of analysis but on him versus McCain, and the same thing in 2012 again, him versus Romney. I just want to see a black guy win. I've been all white guys up to that point. Let's see a black guy win. That was identity politics. That was in 2008 and 2012. By 2016, I wasn't working on me anymore. I was not a supporter of Clinton just because she was a woman, but a lot of people are still buying into these identity politics. So in 2016, a bunch of people wanted to see Clinton win just because it was a woman, for no other reason, just because it was a woman. In 2020, it was two white men, so it didn't matter. And now you got the women thing again. You got the women thing, and you got the people of color thing, which is called a POC thing. Again, we'll get into the black part tomorrow when I talk about why Trump might win. So this is the flip side of what I just told you on point number one. So the first point was about how people are voting against something that they don't like. This point is about people voting for something that they do like. So there are some of you, again, some of you males, some of you females who would just be happy to see, I just want to see a woman. I just want to see a woman ascend to the leadership position. And again, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just saying this is a thing. And some of you can probably verify this and validate what I'm saying by leaving a comment and letting me know. So neither one of these points, I want you to notice these first 2 points that I'm sharing. Neither one of these points has anything to do with the substance, policies, or what the actual administration would possibly do. It has nothing to do with any of that. And why does that matter? Here's the reason why it matters. It matters because many people, especially those of you who get into these like deep conversations about politics and why this candidate is better than that candidate and this policy and the inflation this and the economy that, and this person's going to do that thing and this person's going to do that thing, and there's no way you can pay for this and all these type of things. All of this is window dressing. All of that is window dressing. Those details, I'm not saying they're not true, and I'm not saying that they don't matter. I'm saying it's window dressing in that when it comes to political elections, especially federal elections like president, the studies have shown, and this is bared out for years, is that people base their voting decision when you have this binary choice. It generally is a binary choice. We know it's like 6 candidates that most of you never even heard of most of the other candidates on the ballot. They are on the ballot. Most of you don't know them. Usually we make our decision based on the person we like most. That's how we make voting decisions. We vote for the person we like. So if it's Biden versus Trump, whichever one you like most, that's the one you vote for. This one is generally the same thing. And again, that's an emotional decision. Liking something is an emotional decision. And then we come up with a bunch of logical justifications that make ourselves sound like we really thought about this and really came to a rational conclusion when we really did not. Again, you can find 1,000 facts that support voting for one candidate. You can find 1,000 facts that support voting for the other candidate. The problem with facts, folks, is that they can be taken out of context. You can take a fact out of context. So anytime someone tells you that they have a fact to support a point, that doesn't mean that their fact is unchallengeable, because what they may often leave out are all the other facts that would invalidate their same point. So you got to be careful with facts and instead seek truth. And there used to be a whole industry of people who did this for a living. They were called journalists. Journalism is dead now. So this is the reason why facts can be so easily used to mislead people, because we don't have anybody out there doing the job of finding and reporting the truth, because now everybody's just throwing out facts, including us. I'm not just talking about the quote unquote journalists. We do it as well. This is what social media has provided a platform for anyone to throw any fact out there that they want, whether it's true or not, and to guide and influence other people with whatever factual information you want to share. And again, there's a reason why these people are called influencers. They're not called truth tellers. They're not called journalists. They're called influencers, because our job is to influence, or our desire is to influence other people, whether, again, we're telling them the truth or not. Okay. And that's, again, different conversation for a different day. So I personally do not agree with this line of reasoning when it comes to identity politics. I just told you that. And I'm even being generous by calling this a quote unquote reason, but it doesn't change the fact that it's true. It doesn't change the fact that this is going to happen. There are people who are going to vote for Kamala because she's a woman and because she's a female, and for no other reason. Again, the same reason why people voted for Clinton, the same reason why if another woman runs in the future, there will be people who vote just because it's a woman. Again, under the premise that it's time to have a woman in charge. And I'm not asking if you agree. I'm just telling you that it's the reality. And the minority part. There are people out there who are going to vote because she's a minority. Barack Obama leveraged this heavily to win in 2008 and in 2012. Had he not done that, had Barack Obama been a white guy, he probably wouldn't have won. All right, he leveraged this heavily in order to get himself into the White House. And what Barack did last week was completely out of line, by the way. Let me say that since I'm bringing his name up. When he came and spoke to a bunch of black men, I believe, I can't remember what town he was in, but he was basically saying a bunch of black men have not been activated to support Kamala because maybe you all have an issue with supporting a woman. He was basically alluding to somehow some form of misogyny is the reason why black men are not supporting Kamala Harris. Was complete nonsense. He's completely out of line saying something like that when he is, again, he's playing the identity politics card on people that in 2024, we have a lot more access to information than we did in 2008. He was able to leverage that to get in the White House, but it's not going to work the same with Kamala for several reasons. One being that Barack Obama is a much better orator than Kamala Harris is. That's one reason, probably the biggest reason between the two, the difference between the two of them. There are several others, but we're not going to get into here today. Now, anyway, more on this second point. Kamala Harris has, and again, we're going to dive into this more deeply tomorrow when I talk about why Trump is going to win, is that Kamala Harris has chosen to start playing up this I'm a black woman thing. Now, again, some of you may believe that she is a black woman. Some of you may believe that she's not a black woman. For some of you, the jury is still out. You're trying to figure out, is she black? Is she not black? She's claiming that she's partly Jamaican, and her Jamaican connection is to her father. Her father is still alive, yet he has not said anything to verify or to invalidate this claim that she is partly Jamaican. We don't know. Again, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, not a little bit more, but a lot more tomorrow when I'm talking about why Trump will win. And the whole point is we know that she's brown, okay? And we know that she is also Indian. So that makes her a person of color, which is the big catch-all group that has been used in identity politics a lot in the United States over the last 10, 15 years. And this is also part of her appeal to a certain percentage of the voting audience, that they're going to pick her just because we want to see a person of color. We've had a whole bunch of white men and white people, period, in charge. It's about time we get a person of color in charge. Again, this worked very well with Barack Obama. It is not as strong. The poll is not as strong now as it was with Obama 16 years ago, but there is still a poll. There's still a whole lot of black people out there who will pick a person of color just because they're a person of color, regardless of their substance. Moving on to point number 3. We're talking here today about why Kamala is going to win the 2024 presidential election. For those of you who came in the middle of this, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a whole live on why Trump is going to win. So don't get mad at me if you hate Kamala and you want Trump to win. And tomorrow, don't get mad at me if you like Trump and you want Kamala to win, or flip those around. Whole point is I'm going to argue both sides in case anybody came in the middle of this. This is not a partisan presentation. Number 3, the mainstream media is dominated by left-leaning organizations who will push stories and angles that support voting for Harris and or trashing Trump. The media, mainstream media, is heavily leaning towards the left. It has for a long time, and it continues to do so. You are starting to see a little bit more of counter points, I guess we can say, coming from people who may be more on the conservative side or the Republican side or whatever, MAGA side, whatever you want to say. And because we have social media and there are more and more voices who are not connected to any type of corporate entity that can put their message out there and build their own audiences without any connections to anyone. Now you're starting to see a little bit more balancing out. But as a general rule, not a rule, but as a generality, the mainstream media is still heavily leaning to the left. And any of you who saw, for example, if you watched any of the 2, well, we had 3, but let's just say the 2 since Harris has become the candidate, debates, the debate between Trump and Kamala, and then the debate between the 2 vice president candidates, Walz and Vance, you see that the moderators who are supposed to be moderating, they're supposed to be in the middle, both of them took liberties to quote unquote fact check. And I just told you how to watch out for facts. Fact checking doesn't really mean anything these days because, again, people can pick and choose which facts they want to check. They chose to fact check on the Republican candidate, but they did not fact check anything that the Democratic candidate said. And also the kind of questions that were being asked of the Democratic candidate versus the questions being asked of the Republican candidate were also heavily biased in one direction or another, either make the Democrat basically throwing them an alley-oop or lobbing them a softball, and then with the Republican asking them very charged questions and loaded questions for them to answer. And if you are not familiar with any of you who maybe you haven't studied journalism or debates or moderation or anything like that, you may not have even noticed what they were doing. The good news is, in the world that we're in today, we have people who can come out on their own independent platforms with their own independent messages and point these things out. And that's where the left is starting to lose. Let's say the mainstream media is starting to lose their chokehold on giving people a certain story and certain information, which they should have realized and made some adjustments back in 2016 when everything they put out there was making it seem like Trump was just going to destroy everything and he won anyway. They should have realized it then, but all they've done is triple down on that same approach over the last almost 10 years. They just continue to triple down on this because they don't want to do anything different, obviously. And they're going to keep doing this. They are giving Harris, or they're trying to give Harris or make Harris seem like everything she's doing is somehow working, perfect, smart, intelligent, etc. But what I just said, between her and Barack Obama was actually a very good communicator. He was a very strong orator. And whether you think all he did was talking and actually do anything, there are many people who say that about him. He was very good at talking. Barack Obama looks and sounds and feels like a president. When you listen to him talk, you're like, this guy's really, really good. Even if you hate everything he's saying, he is good at it. Kamala Harris ain't that. Kamala Harris is not that. She does not have the oratory skills of Trump. I mean, not Trump either, but she definitely doesn't have the oratory skills of Barack Obama. She does not have the posture of Obama, and she does not infuse confidence in people the way that Obama did and still does. And these are weaknesses against her. And this is one of the reasons why she's not going to be able to leverage identity politics as well as Obama was able to, in addition to the fact that we've gotten a little bit smarter since then. However, despite all of that, the mainstream media is still strongly in support of her simply because of who she's running against. They hate Trump so much that they will support anything she says or does or paper over anything she says or does that sounds stupid because of their dislike for Trump. This is not really about Kamala. If Kamala wins, it's not really because of her. It's because of him and the negative energy that is against him. So Donald Trump, we already know, all of you know this, he's been the nominee for the last 3 elections. And in order to become the nominee of the Republican Party 3 straight elections, you got to have a solid amount of support. There has to be a solid amount of people who are voting for you. Again, regardless of your thinking of why they are supporting him, they are supporting him. He has gotten the support of the Republican Party 3 times in a row. And after the first one in 2016, nobody has really tried to oppose him. Nobody tried to oppose him in 2020. He was already an incumbent. That's normal. And then in 2024, who tried to oppose him? Anybody really, really try to run against him in 2024? Not really, because nobody had a chance. And the only people who tried to run against him, if you think about it, was the Department of Justice, who brought 4 cases against Trump. And we're going to talk about this more tomorrow. 4 cases against Donald Trump. So you had the case about the quote unquote stolen documents that he had in his house in Florida. Then you had the RICO case in Georgia that he tried to overturn the election. That one's going to fall apart. Then you had the New York case about the fraud where he got that's the one where he got the felony convictions, right? So the 34 felony convictions came from that one. And then you have the civil case that he was liable for sexual assault. I can't say those words. I gotta be careful saying that on TikTok. Again, TikTok's very sensitive with this stuff. So they brought those 4 cases against him, and all of them have some very bright red flags on them. Y'all can read up on that stuff from people who are actually doing journalism. There's plenty of it. But they brought all 4 of those cases against him only for one reason. For those of you who don't understand it, they brought those cases against him because they wanted to stop him from running for president this year, and it didn't work. And this is a problem. And the reason why this is a problem is because it actually will make people support Trump even more. I'll talk about that even more tomorrow. I'm saying all that to say, because I'm supposed to be talking about why Kamala's going to win. Those cases and those negative marks against Trump, whether you believe them to be true or not, those negative marks against Trump are making him look bad to a certain percentage of the voting public, which is going to mean they're going to vote for Kamala. So this is why people say, well, I can't vote for someone who has 34 felony convictions. I can't vote for someone who's been found guilty of the R word in civil court, not in criminal court, but in civil court, but still the same thing. I can't vote for someone who tried to overturn an election. I can't vote for someone who stole government documents and had them in his bathroom. And remember those pictures? So these are things that are working. These are things that are working to turn voters against him for no other reason than just these points, even though these cases, each one of these cases has some serious holes in it judicially that make the cases that could cause all 4 of these cases to fall apart. And if Trump wins, none of these cases are going anywhere. But if he loses, some of these cases might actually work. So the mainstream media and most of social media, by the way, social media is based in Silicon Valley. Those of you who've never been there, it's a beautiful place. I have been to Silicon Valley. I've walked around there and walked through the campuses of Google's over there, Facebook is over there, LinkedIn is over there. It's really beautiful. And it's actually, especially those of you who are Americans, I've never seen a cleaner town than Silicon Valley in the Bay Area of California. So any of you who's ever been there, y'all can verify this. I've never seen a place so clean. There was no trash on the street. The bike lanes are like 10 times wider than the bike lanes down here in Miami. It's just perfectly clean, beautiful. It looks like something out of an AI generated out of a computer. I've never seen a place so clean. But anyway, I'm bringing that up to say those companies, all based in Silicon Valley, they are strongly against people like Trump. Now, the tide is turning in a few ways. Number one, companies like TikTok are not based in Silicon Valley. TikTok is based in China. Companies like X, which used to be called Twitter, was a Silicon Valley company, but now since it's been bought by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has declared himself clearly a supporter of Trump. He has gone around actually appearing at Trump rallies, actually speaking on behalf of Trump. So X got flipped. Now, companies like Facebook, which were strongly supporting Biden in the 2020 election, they have been a little bit quieter this time around. Mark Zuckerberg had even come out and said, at least I heard him quoted as saying, that Facebook was not going to be nearly as involved in, like trying to suppress quote unquote disinformation, which is a nonsense phrase, but they're not going to be involved in trying to suppress that as much in this election cycle as they were in the previous one, which they did heavily. And again, I'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but with the Biden election in 2020, there was a story about his son and a laptop, infamous laptop, that probably would have caused Biden to lose the election. All the social media platforms banded together to suppress and ignore that story and claim that it wasn't true when we all found out. They already knew, but we all found out after the election that it was 100% true. Had that story gotten out, Trump probably would have won in 2020, and we wouldn't be talking about what we're talking about now because he would have had 2 terms and it would have been over. There'd be somebody else running for president right now, and who knows? It might not even be Kamala, because Biden might still be in there, and it couldn't be Trump because he had already had 2 terms. That suppression of that laptop story by the mainstream media and Silicon Valley working together at the behest of the government is the reason why I believe, had that story gotten out, Trump would have won. Even with COVID, even with the summer of social justice and the George Floyd and all that, he would have won 2020 had that story actually been reported the way it was supposed to be reported. And this is all because the mainstream media is on the side of the left. Despite the fact that I just told you, Facebook is less involved this year than they were. X is now bought by Elon Musk, and companies like TikTok, which are huge right now, they are not based in Silicon Valley. So one of the main reasons journalism has died a slow death over the past decade plus is because of 3 things. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, journalism industries have decided to start competing against social media, which is they can't win that fight. A journalist cannot compete against social media. Social media is about entertaining people and giving them dopamine hits. Journalism is about telling people the truth. All right, truth is like eating vegetables, whereas dopamine hits is like eating candy. All right, you cannot compete against candy with vegetables. All right, if I'm looking at a Snickers bar and a plate of broccoli, I'm probably going to pick the Snickers bar, and most of you probably would as well. When journalists decided to start competing against social media, they killed journalism, and journalism is dead right now because of this very reason. Another reason is Donald Trump's pointing out the mainstream media as fake news didn't cause them to look at themselves in the mirror and say, well, hey, maybe we are fake news. Maybe we are making up stories. Maybe we are not reporting fairly. Let's clean our act up and get our shit together. They could have did that. They didn't do that. When Donald Trump started calling the mainstream media fake news, what did they do? They said, oh, well, Donald Trump's just a liar. Donald Trump is this. They just start tripling down on him being a bad guy when he was actually telling the truth. Because how many of you these days trust the mainstream media less now than you did 10 years ago? How many of you just say, put the word less in the chat if this is true? How many of you can say that you trust the mainstream media less now than you did 10 years ago? And part of the reason is Donald Trump created this whole new phrase called fake news. Nobody was using that phrase. I don't think we had the phrase fake news in 2012, but all of a sudden now we have this phrase fake news that causes all of us, and again, whether you like Trump or not. whether you like him or not, he inserted that phrase into the vernacular. And now it's a thing. Now, if someone doesn't like a story, they say, well, it's fake news. That's a way of dismissing something. He made that up. He created that out of nowhere. And now the mainstream media, again, they could have done one of two things. It's kind of like you have a personal trainer, you go to the gym, and the personal trainer looks at you and says, you're fat and you're lazy and you look sloppy, and we need to fix that. You got two choices at that point. You could either A, say, you know what, he's right. I am fat and lazy and sloppy, and I need to get my shit together. All right, personal trainer, help me get in shape and lose this 50 pounds. Or you could say, well, fuck this trainer. He's just a hater. He's just a negative person. I don't need to do anything different. I'm fine. Mainstream media chose option B. All right. They could have said, I do need to get my shit together. They decided I'm not. And they just tripled down on being negative against Donald Trump. And they're still doing it. And the third thing is the media's abandoning of journalistic integrity in the name of righteousness. So again, I don't know how much any of you look at this stuff or read about this stuff. But back in 2015, 2016, when Trump was originally running for president the first time, there were people who worked, and these are like the bosses, the editors at companies like the Washington Post and the New York Times. They came out and literally said this. They said, yes, there is a straight up way that we need to report on politicians and politics. And we know that there's a straight up way of doing this. The New York Times was always known as the paper of record. If you wanted straight up journalism, you went to the New York Times. Those times are over. I think we all can agree, those of you who follow this stuff. And what one of these people said was, but despite the fact that we have this, we need to honor journalism, because Donald Trump is such a unique type of person and he has such a unique style, we have to do our reporting and our quote unquote journalism in a unique way, specifically for and because of Donald Trump. In other words, what he was saying without saying it was, we're not going to do journalism anymore because we need to tilt our coverage to basically counteract what Donald Trump is saying, because one of the main companies that Donald Trump would attack was the New York Times. If you remember his tweets on social media from back then, he attacked the New York Times all the time. He called them the failing New York Times, the fake news New York Times, the terrible New York Times. And now why would the New York Times, who's this big organization that's been around for 100 years, why would they react so strongly to one person just calling them fake and failing, et cetera? The reason why they did is because Donald Trump was influencing a lot of people to believe it. He got so many people to believe, New York Times is fake news. We don't need to listen to the New York Times. New York Times is not the paper record anymore. The New York Times is not objective. The New York Times is not reporting real news, and they're not being journalists anymore. He got a lot of people to believe that and accept it. And the New York Times, instead of responding and doing their job the way they're supposed to, they instead reacted and started bashing Donald Trump as a way of basically covering their own asses. And they have not recovered from that. New York Times hasn't recovered from that mistake. So they started basically spinning anything about Trump in a negative way, and they're still doing it. And this will all help Kamala Harris. All right, so I'm talking about Trump here. As I told you, one of the main reasons Kamala's going to win is because people hate Trump, not because Kamala is bringing anything necessary to the table. Moving on to point number 4. We're talking here today about why Kamala is going to win the 2024 election. And by the way, tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. So don't get excited or angry about anything I'm saying here today, because I'm going to flip the script on you tomorrow. Number 4, the multiple hoaxes that have been perpetuated against Donald Trump. Some of you still believe some of these hoaxes. Let's go through the hoaxes. All right. Some of you know what the hoaxes are. Let's go with the first one. First hoax is the good people, fine people on both sides hoax from Charlottesville, Virginia, in whatever year that was, 2016, I believe 16 or 17. The fine people hoax. All right. This is not true. It's a hoax because it's not true. Did Donald Trump say that there are fine people on both sides? Yes. Now, what did he say right after that? He said, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis. They need to be condemned totally. He said that right after. So he didn't just say there are fine people on both sides. Again, this is how people lie with facts. That's why you got to be careful when people tell you that they have a fact, because you can take the facts that support your point, and you can ignore the facts that refute your point. So did he say it? Yes. Is that all he said? No. And the context does matter. You can't just take something out of context and present it as a fact. That is a lie. That's called lies by omission. If you're not telling the entire truth, you're lying. All right, there's truth and there's lies, and there's no in between. There's no gray area in between. So that's the first hoax, is the fine people hoax. That did not happen. Okay, the second hoax is the January 6th insurrection hoax. All right, y'all know what an insurrection is? An insurrection is an attempt to overthrow the government. You can't overthrow the United States government with no weapons. All right, so did people march in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021? Yes. Is that legal? Yes, it is. Can people walk up to the Capitol and chant? Yes, they can. That's called protesting. That's a normal thing. Now, remember, in 2020, BLM launched a whole bunch of protests. Were they protesting? Yes, they were. Did anybody call it an insurrection? No. Were they burning down neighborhoods? Yes, they did. Again, whether you're a BLM supporter or not, did that happen? Yes, it did. That's legal. Now, to burn stuff down is not legal, but to actually peacefully gather to protest is a legal thing in the United States. And any of you who is from the USA, hasn't traveled around the world, try to peacefully protest in some other countries. You'll find out how lucky you are to be able to protest in the United States. Because in many countries you protest, they'll beat your head in, and you have no legal recourse. Anyway, that's not an insurrection. All right, they didn't overthrow the government. You can't overthrow the government with no weapons. Now, were there people who attacked security? Are there people who entered the building unlawfully and trespassed? Yes. And do those people deserve to face legal action? Yes. At the same time, the legal action that many of the people who trespassed on January 6th, the kind of penalties that they got legally were exorbitant. They were very exorbitant. And a lot of times those stories didn't really get pushed out there and promoted because, again, they were really, really exorbitant penalties. The amount of time in jail people got jailed without being able to contact lawyers. People were held in jail before they were even given what their charges were. All of that stuff happened after the January 6th thing. And here's the thing about January 6th. It was a couple things about it. And again, the hoax that I'm pointing out is that this was not an insurrection. All right. You cannot overthrow a government with no weapons. It makes no sense to call it an insurrection. All right. So one of the reasons why those penalties were so strong was, of course, because these people were Trump supporters. And there are people who I know who went to DC on January 6th, was they're allowed to do. They went to the speech that Trump gave. And here's the reason why it wasn't an insurrection. And it damn sure wasn't because of Donald Trump. During the speech, and those of you who didn't see the speech, go look up the speech. It's on YouTube. That day in January 2021, it was a whole thing was stop the steal, right? Because he thought the election was being stolen from him. Again, not asking if you believe it or not. He thought that. And he called a bunch of his supporters to Washington, D.C. to support him. He gave a speech. When I say he, I'm talking about Donald Trump. In the speech, he says the following. He says, when I'm done giving this speech, because he was giving a speech away from the Capitol building, he said, y'all going to march down to the Capitol building. And these are the two words, peacefully and patriotically. He said that out of his mouth. Peacefully and patriotically, you're going to march down to the Capitol and let your voice be heard. That is legal. That's not a crime. And even to tell people to march is not a crime. You can tell people to march wherever you want to tell them to march. Now, he didn't tell them to break into the building. He didn't tell them to attack anyone. He did not tell anyone to be violent. So for anyone to believe the hoax that Donald Trump tried to overthrow the government, that's bullshit. No, he didn't. And there's no legal case to that. So this case that they have, that this guy, what's the guy's name? Jack Smith, who is trying to pursue this case of Trump tried to overthrow the government. This is complete nonsense. That case is not going anywhere. I think even if he loses, they might be able to get him convicted. But if he wins, that case is going to fall to pieces, which it should either way. But we'll see what ends up happening. And they call this lawfare. So you got warfare. This is lawfare. So again, and the other thing about the January 6th thing is that why did people march on the Capitol? The reason people marched on the Capitol, for those of you who may not understand so much about government, is that the Capitol is where the lawmakers are. All right, that's where the laws get made. The laws do not get made in the White House. Laws get made in the Capitol. All right, so the people who work in the Capitol, they're the ones who make the laws. That's Congress. And the Trump supporters who marched to the Capitol on January 6th, again, peacefully and patriotically, as he said, these people were jailed and given these penalties that they were given simply because they went to the source of where the real issues are. See, many people, when they are upset about the government, they look at the president. But the president is really more of a figurehead than they are a decision maker. The real decisions get made in Congress. Those are the people making the decisions. So if you don't like what's happening in the government, what you need to look at is your senators and your Congress people, because those are the ones who are actually making the laws. The president can't do anything without the support of Congress. So the president says, I'm going to do A, B, C. If Congress says, no, you're not, it doesn't happen, period. That's how it goes. So when those people marched on the Capitol on January 6th, what they were uncovering for everyone else to understand is that if you really have a problem with something happening in the government, you need to go over there instead of over here. Stop looking at the president because they're not really a decision maker. You need to look at these people over here. And I think the people in Congress didn't like the fact that they were being exposed as, this is who the real people are that we need to pay attention to. And again, as I'm saying, this is another hoax. This is the second hoax, was the quote unquote insurrection hoax. So it can't be an insurrection if he says march peacefully and patriotically. Just saying those two words alone kills this whole concept concept of it being an insurrection. Here's the third hoax. Third hoax is that Donald Trump's going to end democracy. All right, this is a funny hoax. How is he going to end democracy? First of all, he's going to end democracy. Why is he following the democratic process of winning the nomination, doing the debates, campaigning, advertising? How is he ending democracy? Where exactly is he going to end democracy? I'm trying to understand this. If some of you can leave a comment, let me know. How is Donald Trump going to end democracy? All right. So after 2021, when he finally accepted that he hadn't won and Joe Biden was going to be the president, he moved on. All right. The last 4 years. Now we have Biden, Harris administration. Donald Trump didn't try to end democracy. He didn't march on the White House and try to take over. He didn't do anything. So where is this ending democracy thing actually going to happen? So this is another hoax. And I'm bringing these up to help you all understand that many of you, some of you probably in the comments right now, there's a whole bunch of them coming up on TikTok. I can't read these fast. They're coming up, but I will go through the comments in the end. Many of you are voting against Trump because you believe these hoaxes. So I'm pointing these out and I'm stating these as reasons why people are actually going to vote for Harris, because you believe these hoaxes. This is a hoax. Where is he going to end democracy? Again, this is one that's just made up and perpetuated. Obama has repeated it. Clinton has repeated it. Both Clintons, Bill and Hillary. Harris keeps repeating it. And people who hate Trump are repeating this. He's going to end democracy. Again, where is this coming from? I'm trying to figure this one out. Can any of you help me? Where's this ending democracy thing coming from? How is he going to end democracy? There are going to be no more votes because, here's the other hoax that's connected to this is when Trump said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. That's another hoax. He's going to be a dictator on day one. So again, this is another fact taken out of context. So you took some clip from what he said, and I see this on social media all the time, specifically on X, because I actually engage on X. That's the only app where I will look at other people's stuff, scroll, and comment on other people's posts. So you'll never see me commenting on anybody's posts on any one of these other apps that y'all watch me on, only on X. And often when Donald Trump goes and does an interview or he gives a speech, I'll see someone, they'll take like a 10-second clip out of a speech. He talked for 45 minutes. Let's take a 10-second clip of something that he says. And they're like, oh, Donald Trump said this. I can't believe that he said that. And then people go spreading it around. I'm like, these people can't be that dumb to believe that that's the full context. And they know exactly what they're doing. This is the reason why fake news is a word, because people are doing this on purpose now. Now, when that first started happening, I could see maybe somebody doing it because it's sensational or it's exciting or it's funny. But now people know exactly what they're doing. And now this is like a strategy. This is like a strategy now. People are just going to throw these things out. How are you going to take a 10-second segment from someone talking for an hour and say, oh, that's what he said? Like, I could do that to you and make you look crazy if I wanted to. I can take anything you ever post on the internet and make you look crazy by taking a 30-second clip out of something that you said. And I can take a 30-second clip out of something you said and make you look like a genius if I want to. And if I just want to get people to believe it. So you got to be careful when you see clips these days. And I'm applying that to all of you. So anytime you're on the internet and someone posts a clip from something that somebody else posted, they take a little clip out of the whole thing. Always ask yourself before you respond to what you see, what's the full context of this? Let me hear what they got said before this. Let me hear what got said after this, because this clip might be framed just to make something look like something when it's not actually what it is. You got to be very careful of this. And again, there used to be a person called a journalist who would do this work for you. They don't exist anymore. So now you had to do the extra work of figuring this stuff out. They used to do this for you and say, hey, that's nonsense. Here's the actual truth. Nobody's doing that anymore. If you're not doing it, then you'll just be fooled and led around by your nose by people perpetuating these hoaxes. Okay, so these are everything I just told you are hoaxes. Yes, there are facts involved, but a fact is not the truth. If you tell someone a couple of facts and you leave out the other facts, that means you're lying. That's called lying by omission. Lying by omission is when you leave out details that would basically invalidate the conclusion that you are proposing. Moving on to point number 5. We are talking here today about why Kamala is going to win the 2024 election. And again, don't get happy if you're a Kamala supporter that I'm saying this, because tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. And if you're a Trump supporter, don't get mad that I'm saying what I'm saying here today, because tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. So number 5, Democratic Party. I think we can agree to this point, and you tell me if I got this wrong. Democratic Party is in full support of bringing what we traditionally called illegal aliens into the United States and turning them into voters to support the Democratic Party. This is happening. Now, let me explain to you how it's happening. So these people, we used to call them illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. And these are people who have come into the United States, do not have proper documentation to be in the United States, yet they are still here. Now, there's a process for getting rid of these people. It's called deportation. So here's another. Well, this one actually isn't a hoax, because Trump has actually said mass deportation. The problem is Donald Trump does not have the authority to actually mass deport anybody, nor does he have the authority to do something like give full immunity to police. Another thing that he said on the campaign trail, and these are all directional things. They are not literal things. People tend to interpret Trump literally because they don't like him, instead of understanding him directionally, because that's what he does. He's a persuader. But anyway, he's a salesperson. That's what salespeople do. They talk directionally, not literally. But anyway, let's get into this immigrants thing. When it comes to the immigrants, if someone came into the United States illegally or tried to, they would either get sent back at the border, or once they were discovered, they would get detained in some way and then deported and sent back to the United States. Here's what's happening now. You know what's happening now? What's happening now is, and this has happened under the Biden-Harris administration quietly, is what happened, is they have brought these immigrants in who traditionally would have been illegal because they don't have proper documentation. And what they're doing is fast tracking these people's legal status. So if you saw the Vance Walz debate, and J.D. Vance said this, and J.D. Vance is Donald Trump's running mate, by the way, for vice president. He mentioned how these people are traditionally would be illegal, but now they're living in the United States legally. And the moderator said, these immigrants you're referring to, they do have legal status. So notice that verbal sleight of hand. They have legal status. What's happening, and there's actually an app that a lot of y'all don't know about this. There's an app that the Harris-Biden administration launched that when an illegal person comes into the United States, again, they're illegal because they don't have documentation, they can go on the app, put in their information, and they get fast-track legal status. Like within a week, they have legal status. So they can legally be in the United States. Let me ask a question. How many of you are, or you know someone who came to the United States as they weren't a citizen, but then they went through the process of becoming a citizen. So they had to go get all the paperwork and all that stuff, get a green card, get a visa, or they had to go through the process to actually become a naturalized citizen in the United States. Let me ask you, any of you who's been in that situation or know someone who's been in that situation, how long did it take for them to become legal? And I know some people who've gone through this process. How long did it take for a person to come into the country as an immigrant, not have legal status, and then they actually became, how long did that take? Y'all know how long that takes? That takes years. That's not something you can get in a week. It can take a decade. Somebody could be in the United States and they have like a visa or whatever their situation is. Maybe they got married, whatever. But the time it takes from the time you come into the country to become a legal citizen, that could take a decade, like years. That's not an overnight thing. What's happening now is that someone can come in and they go on this app, they put in their information, and within like 2 weeks, they have legal status. They're not, quote unquote, a citizen. And this verbiage matters because, again, if you saw the Walz-Vance debate, and y'all can watch it, it's on YouTube, the moderator said this. Those immigrants have legal status. He didn't say they're citizens. He said they have legal status. And they're doing this by the thousands now. So y'all remember when Trump said something about they're eating animals, they're eating dogs, and whatever's happening in Ohio, and whatever group that is, whether it's happening or not. The point is, the most important point is that the Democratic Party, they've been doing this for years, but they fast-tracked this. So let's talk about the border. And the border we're talking about is the southern border of the United States, usually for the most part running along Texas and then into other southern states. Donald Trump, we all know, when he ran for president in 2016, his whole thing was we're going to build the wall, right? We're going to build the wall and we're going to keep these bad people and these illegal people from coming into our country. That was a big part of his campaign, one of the main reasons why he won in 2016. Now, he actually had the border pretty secure. So the amount of people coming in illegally, they can't, because that border is very big. So any of you who's ever been to Texas is a huge state. That border is extremely long. America barely hire enough people to watch every area of that border. But the illegal immigration numbers were way down while Trump was president. As soon as Joe Biden became president, through executive orders, which are things where he basically can supersede going through Congress, through executive orders, here's the first thing Joe Biden did in January of 2021 when he became president. Because again, you win the election in 2020, he gets sworn in 2021. Immediately, the Biden-Harris administration, they issued executive orders that loosened up the rules at the border. In other words, when people get caught at the border, instead of sending them back to where they came from, let's let them stay. That happened. Then they started bringing people in, not even letting them in, bringing them in. There are immigrants coming into the United States now through airplanes, not sneaking across the border, not walking across the river, No, they're being brought in by the Biden and Harris administration. And this is just numbers that we know. When Trump was president, about 2 million illegal aliens came into the United States. Because again, the border is so big, you can't stop all of them. 2 million came in. During the Biden-Harris administration, you know how many illegals came in? At least that we know, like numbers that are actually reported, 12 million. 2 million came in under Trump, 12 million are coming under Biden-Harris. And that's not because there was something wrong with the wall or all of a sudden more people decided they want to come to the United States. People want to come to the United States all the time. This is the land of opportunity. People still want to come here. Is that the Biden-Harris administration encouraged people coming in. It's not like they just said, we're going to turn a blind eye, act like we don't see you. They actually started encouraging people to come in. And now all these illegals have come in, 10, 12 million illegals. Where are they going? All right. Some of you may live in towns where these people are showing up. And y'all have heard about this. Again, I don't know how much y'all follow quote unquote news. I don't watch the news, but I listen to people who talk about this stuff independently. And towns like what JD Vance was talking about in Ohio, towns like Aurora, Colorado, and they're just picking these random towns. They're not randomly picking the towns, but these towns that maybe some of you have heard of but haven't been to. I've been to Aurora, Colorado, not recently, but probably wouldn't want to go there now. They're picking these towns and they're bringing these people in by the thousands and hundreds into these towns. And these people are just going out there doing whatever they're doing. And again, they have legal status. And the Biden-Harris administration doesn't want to make news about any illegal things that these people are doing. And the reason why they don't want to make news about it is because if it becomes news that these immigrants who just came here 6 months ago are committing crime in American towns, well, guess what that's going to do? That's going to make Harris look bad, and it's going to hurt her chances of winning the election. And then they go to the mainstream media, I just told you about them, who's on the left side, and they say, don't tell this story. Don't talk about this. Don't report on this, even though it's actual crime. This is all part of the machine that could possibly help Kamala win this election. They're not reporting on these negative things. Now let's talk a little bit more about the border. Again, those of you who watched you should watch the debate between Kamala and Trump, the one debate that they had, maybe the only one they're going to have. Kamala has brought up multiple times when Donald Trump attacked her on the border. Look at these illegal immigrants you're bringing into the country. Trump brought that up during the debate. What does Kamala say? Same thing she says every time. She says, we proposed a really strong bipartisan border bill. We got Republicans on that side. We got Democrats. Everybody liked this bill. But Donald Trump called his Republican friends and got the bill killed because he wanted to use it as a way to run his campaign. First of all, whether that's true or not, we don't know. It's hearsay. But let's just say that happened, right? Let's say Trump called his friends and said, don't support the border bill. Here's the problem with that. First of all, the border bill, quote unquote, didn't come out until the summer of 2024. When did Biden and Harris get sworn into the administration? In January of 2021. So why did they wait 3.5 years to do something about the border, knowing what they know about how many immigrants were coming into the country illegally? Why did they wait 3.5 years? They waited 3.5 years because they didn't want to do it at all. Had nobody brought it up, if Trump didn't use it against them, they wouldn't have even came up with that bill. Also, here's the other thing about that bill. Anytime you all hear a politician telling you that they proposed a bill and the bill got voted down in Congress, or the Republicans didn't go for it, or Democrats didn't go for it, whatever, you need to go find the bill, because all these bills get posted on the internet. They have to do that. That's the government's responsibility. And these bills will be like hundreds of pages. But what you need to do is find out what's in the bill, because the bill is never just the thing that they said. So when Kamala says we had a border bill, or here's a whole bunch of other things that were in that bill. In that border bill, I don't remember the exact, TikTok's giving me okay. I don't remember the exact number, but in that border bill, about $18 million from that bill was not going to secure the border. You know where it was going? It was going to Ukraine. The most money, because they had a list of where all the money was going to go. And the number one line item, as far as where the money was going to go, was going to Ukraine, not going to the border. But it was called, quote unquote, the border bill. So this is the kind of stuff that politicians slip under our noses, because most of us are not going to go and read a 300-page PDF to find out what they're doing. But this is the kind of stuff that they're voting on and passing and making decisions about every single day, and is affecting us. And we don't even know that this stuff is happening. So the border bill was some nonsense for a couple of reasons. I just told you a couple of them. They only came up with this because they want to look like they're doing something about the border. But then Trump said, and he should have pressed this harder. He didn't do it. He should have pressed it harder. Like, yo, wait a minute. Why didn't y'all do something about the border the last 3 years? Because you're doing this on purpose, right? That's the whole thing. They're doing it on purpose. They want to bring these illegals in. And again, they give them legal status. So they're technically not illegal. And then because they have legal status, eventually they want to fast track them to the point that they're actually citizens. And when they become citizens, guess what? Now they can vote. And if I'm an illegal, I come into the United States and I know I got brought here by the Democratic Party and they got me fast track legal status and I went and got a job. Now I'm a natural citizen. Now I can vote. Well, who the hell am I going to vote for? Who am I going to vote for? I'm going to vote for the Democrats. All right. This is a part of a long-term strategy. These people are big picture chess players. They're playing chess. They're not playing checkers. They're playing chess. And I want to remind y'all or warn some of you who are listening to this. Just because you dislike a person, do not underestimate their intelligence. You may dislike a person or a side or a idea. That doesn't mean that whoever came up with it is not a smart person. These people are very smart. They're playing 3D chess and they're playing a long game. This is like a 10 years game. This is not a today, tomorrow game. This is a 10 years game. We bring all these people in, 12 million people. We're going to put them into states where maybe is a little bit a mix. Like any of you follow politics, you know, every election cycle, they're talking about the swing states, right? Because there's certain states that it ain't changing. Like California is always going to be blue. There are states like Alabama are always going to be red. And there are states where it's in between. Like it could go blue, it could go red. They could vote Democrat, it could vote Republican. States like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona. Every election cycle, there's a battle. All right, who's going to win those states? And the election pretty much comes down to that, right? They are putting people into these states, these illegals into those states so they can give themselves a voting advantage, an electoral advantage. This is all, again, big picture thinking. These people are not dumb. Again, you may disagree with them, but they ain't stupid. Do not underestimate, again, the intelligence of your enemies. And there are people out there for Harris, for her to win. These people might not be able to vote this year. But again, with the voting shenanigans, the main reason why there was such a big thing in the 2020 election, because Trump was like, what's actually happening here? The other thing about the election that I believe does matter is the write-in ballots, the mail-in ballots, which happened during 2020 with COVID. And I think it's going to hurt the tradition that we've had. As long as I've been alive, as long as I've been eligible to vote, we've always known by the time we went to bed on election night who won, because even though we didn't technically have the what's the word? Like the actual outcome. We didn't know specifically what the numbers were. Usually by the end of the night, again, Clinton called Trump and said, congratulations, you won. And she ceded that she didn't win. Same thing when Obama won. The other guy called and said, congratulations, you won. In 2020, we didn't have that, right? We didn't know who won until like January, all right? And that's when Trump did the whole peacefully and patriotically to march on the Capitol and all that stuff. I don't like that. I'd rather us know the outcome that night, meaning we need to have everything counted. We need to have all the electronic ones tallied, and we need to know who won by the end of the night. I don't like this whole drawn out process, and then people are going to court and arguing over the ballots. I predict that that's going to happen again this year, regardless of what gets said election night. That's going to happen again. If the Democrats feel like they lost, they're going to argue. And if the Republicans feel like they lost, they're going to argue. And then we won't know who won for weeks or months. I hate that. I don't like that. And hopefully it doesn't happen, but I'm thinking it probably will happen because both of these sides are so dug in for whatever reasons that this is going to just be an ongoing thing. And hopefully it's only because of Trump, that when Trump is not in the election cycle anymore, that maybe there'll be less of this and we'll just know the answer at the end of the night like we used to. But I think with this, I think it gives an advantage to Harris because last time ended up Biden won. And then Trump went and fought it. And then they made it seem like he was trying to overthrow the government or overthrow democracy, or he can't accept that he lost. And they're going to use that same framing again if they do it again this year. And it will make him look bad, and it will make anyone supporting him look bad, because look what they did to the people who marched on January 6th. So are you going to show up to a march if Donald Trump does it again in 2025? If on January 6th, 2025, Trump calls for people to come to Washington, D.C. to support him because he believed the election was stolen from him and they didn't tally the ballots the right way, let me ask you a question. Would you show up to D.C. for that speech, knowing what happened to the people who showed up to the last speech? Probably not, right? You see what I'm saying? These people are not dumb. They know what they're doing. Because of what happened to the last group of people, a lot of people will be very wary of showing up at this one because of what happened last time. Now, it doesn't mean that they didn't put everybody in jail. Let me be clear. All right, there's a bunch of people who went there and they didn't do anything. They didn't break into the building. They marched, but they didn't do anything. They didn't go to jail. But again, I've heard these people tell their stories. They got visited by the FBI. I know people who went to DC on January 6, 2021. They didn't do anything. They didn't get arrested, but the FBI came in, knocked on their door just to talk to them. That actually absolutely did happen. You get a knock on your door from the FBI from something that you did. What's the chances you'll do it again? Again, these people ain't dumb. They know what they're doing. All right. And they are doing this just to let you know, hey, we're here. We see you. We know that you exist. All right. You want to try that again? You want another knock on your door? All right. It might not be so friendly next time. This is all, again, all of these things can help Kamala win. So now let me recap my points. I probably got too many comments to read them all here today, but I'll go through at least the ones I can see. Let me recap my points here. I'm talking why Kamala is going to win the 2024 election tomorrow. I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. So number one, I just told you number one, which is I'm going to do Trump tomorrow. So number one, significant number of people have been indoctrinated to hate Donald Trump, and people will vote for Harris just because they hate Trump. Simple as that. Number two, people are excited to see a woman and minority as president. That's a good reason to vote for somebody in some people's minds. Number three, the mainstream media is on the side of the left, and they will do or say whatever they can to help Harris. That is happening right now. Number four, multiple hoaxes against Trump that people have come to believe. The Fine People hoax, the insurrection hoax, the dictator on day one hoax, what's the other one? The ending democracy hoax. These are all hoaxes that are not true. They are not based in truth. They are based in randomly selected facts. And number five, Democratic Party is using illegal aliens to bolster their voting numbers. All of those things are happening. And if Kamala Harris wins the 2024 election rather, these are the reasons why she will win. Now, whether she wins or not, we don't know yet. But if she wins, these are the reasons why. And tomorrow, again, by the way, before you get too excited, I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it for Trump tomorrow. So let me take questions. I'm going to go through YouTube first, then Facebook, then LinkedIn, and Instagram. I'm going to do TikTok last because TikTok, I probably got 1,000 comments on here. So I'm going to get some of your comments on TikTok, but I'm not reading all of them. It's too many. So Level Sports says, I need Trump to win. I only know you for basketball. This is new to me. Yeah, you didn't see me talking about this stuff, but I do. O-Dog says, Kamala's the worst candidate of my lifetime. I never listen to clips. I listen to the whole interview. That's why people misinterpret the Bible or anything else. They disregard context. Yeah, so people disregard context because it takes more time and effort to get context. And human beings by nature are lazy. So that's the reason why that happens. And O-Dog says, when they talk about suppression, they're just using the black discussion to make non-citizens able to vote. It's not about suppressing black people at all. No, of course it's not. Of course not. Then they lump black people in with immigrants to make it seem like we're one big group. We are not. And yeah, you said about 7 years to get naturalized citizenship. It takes a long time to get citizenship, but they're fast tracking these people. And O-Dog said there's a new law in California that says you cannot ask voters for identification. I saw that. I saw that the governor supported that you can go vote in California. You don't need to have ID. The issue is, I mean, that's it. I don't like that. But the thing is, California has always been a blue state. So there's a certain number of electoral votes you get in California, and that's that. So it is still a bad thing, but at the same time, it won't make that much of a difference because California is going to be those electoral votes go to the Democrat every time. The issue would be is if we stop doing the electoral college and then it's just the popular vote, then the Republicans will never win another election ever again. And said all advantages that Harris has are unethical and borderline illegal. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. There are people who do have that opinion. I'll say that. Let me see what we got over on. Nothing over there. Nothing over there. Let me see what we got on Instagram. And hey, Tara, I see you commenting here. So let me go through and see what we got. John Clark, thanks for pointing out that the mic wasn't on when I first started. Neom Theodore says Trump doesn't care about anyone else but himself. So I don't know anyone who will vote for him. There's no perfect candidate, but the man is only for himself. Well, here's what I would say to you, Neom, is that if you don't know anyone who will vote for Trump, I would say you need to expand your list of associates. I would suggest that you know people from all sides, all angles, all different ways of looking at things in life so that you're not cutting yourself off from valuable information. Because there are some people who would support Trump and they have reasons that you might agree with the reasons, even though it may not change your mind. That's the way I would suggest that. Wesley B. Sang says, Trump may have a huge ego, but that also means he refuses to fail and will want to go down in history as being successful, which in turn we as a country benefit. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. So Neon, you should talk to some people like Wesley. You should get some friends like Wesley. So at least you know why other people think what they think, because it's often not the reasons why we think. Ronnie said, "Les, yeah, fake news. Yes, fake news is a thing now, and Trump made that a thing. The reason we have fake news now is because he made it a new term." John the Goat says, "A lot of people are too far gone. My teammate just asked me what I was watching. It was led to me telling him the media is pushing Kamala and bashing Trump. He responded with, if Trump wins, he'll be a dictator." Yeah, exactly. So again, people have bought into that concept. Again, whether it's true or not, you hear anything often enough, you're going to start believing it. Tara said, "A long time. It takes years." Yes, it takes years to become a citizen in the United States, but these people are getting this status in a week. And Tara says, "We are at a tipping point. Us collectives choose our future. This matters immensely. It's sad to see people have more hate for a man than love for their country." And what's interesting, Tara, is that people would flip that argument around on you and say, well, you have more love for the man than love for the country. So that's the interesting thing about this whole situation. But I get what you're saying. Tara says, "If you have children and family, this should frighten the crap out of you. She'll continue to bring them in." Well, yes, they will continue to bring them in. That we know for sure. If Harris wins, there will be more immigrants coming into the country and getting fast track to status. Absolutely. Yeah, she didn't do anything. Well, they did. What they did was open it up. That's what they did. A wave of crime and murders that will happen if you choose her. Well, there definitely will be more immigrants coming in. Now, what they do is that we don't know yet, but we can see. We have some examples. 43,000 people have arrived in Colorado over the last 2 years. I didn't know that number, but that's true. That's crazy. Tara said, "You are banging on. Everything they do is very strategic." No, it's just me blowing up your feed. I'm hoping people start using critical thinking. Well, you can keep hoping. That's probably not going to happen, Tara. You can hope though. Surfing Cowboy Morning says, "I don't like Trump, but I'm saying enough to understand what's happening in this country. We need him to save our country. Kamala is so dangerous. They have no idea." Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people. Tara said, "I use critical thinking." I believe that you do. The issue is critical thinking is work. Critical thinking takes effort. And when you ask people to think critically, you're asking them to mentally use effort. And that's a big ask to ask people. Human beings are generally lazy. So if you ask people to do something that takes work, then you're only talking to a small percentage of the population. That's just how it works. All right. So let me see what we got on TikTok. There's so many comments on here. I cannot respond to all of these, but let's see what we can do. Alan said he only added 52 miles in 4 years. Well, it depends on the manpower. Now you got to have manpower to do that stuff. Someone said Kamala is delusional. And Kamala has stood tall. She will continue. No wars under Trump. Yes, that's another solid thing that Trump had. No wars under Trump. Cal says vote for Trump. He doesn't articulate as well as Vance, but his Republican policies that worked. Someone asked that I go to college for free. No, I did not go to college for free. I had some scholarships, and my college didn't cost that much. I was in state. Michelle said Trump can't articulate any points. I don't know about that. That's a little bit extreme. I get the direction of what you're saying, but I wouldn't say he can't articulate anything, because if he has half the voting public supporting him, he has to be saying something. How do you explain that, Michelle? I get you're being hyperbolic, but how do you explain that? All right. Somehow, some way, he's getting people to understand him. Cafe Lover said landslide for Trump. Big Basin says, "What's Kamala's accent this week?" Yeah, I see her with the accents. "We're protecting our daughters and young women by voting for Harris." That is a point that many people have made for Harris, that you got to protect females by voting for Harris, because Harris, one of her main points is the abortion, right? That's a big point for Kamala, is the abortion thing. I don't know. I didn't know when some people got so excited about being able to abort a baby. I didn't know that was a thing, but obviously it is. At least it appears to be. Let's see. Gigi said an insurrection hoax, as in the violence that we watched in real time. Again, Gigi, I explained that why it was a hoax. It's not an insurrection. Violence is not an insurrection. If two people get in a fight on the street right now, that's not an insurrection. It's just violence. And insurrection means you're trying to overthrow a government. You can't do that without weapons, and you also can't do it when the person who is in charge says peacefully and patriotically. So again, how do you reconcile that? So she's going to win because she's instilling fear in the people. That's a good reason. Jay Ramey says, "Can't wait for you and the libs face when Trump wins again." Well, Jay Ramey, you are under the assumption that I'm a liberal. That is a false assumption. I told you I'm doing 2 streams here. I'm doing one for Kamala, one for Trump. Tomorrow I'm going to do Trump. WV says, "I think Trump will win big." Someone Boosted Tony says, "Kamala ain't winning." We got Trump Vance 2024. Recursive says, how much do I get paid from PACs to do this? I wish they were paying me to do this. I should have. That's a good idea. I should have went to them first and said, hey, pay me. I'm going to do this live stream about why Kamala's going to win. But no, they did not pay me to do this. And again, I don't work for them. And again, let me remind you all, because I know some of you just caught pieces of what I said. I am telling you why Kamala will win today. And tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. All right. So in case I got to keep saying that 1,000 times, I probably will. All right. These is too many comments in here. I can't respond to all of these. I'm declaring comment bankruptcy over on TikTok. There are too many of these. Let's see. Someone said Malcolm X. What about me reminds you of Malcolm X? All black guys look like. I don't look anything like Malcolm X, and I'm not even saying anything that he talked about. Someone said Kamala is dangerous with a laughing emoji. So some people don't think she's dangerous. Some people think she's extremely dangerous. So this is an interesting thing about the world that we're in. People have these exact opposite opinions on the same points. Some saying Trump will win. Someone says she already lost. Record turnout is never good for Republicans. That has been said. We'll see. We'll see. The issue is when people support Trump, they tend to be quiet about it. And when people don't support Trump, they tend to be loud about it. Enjoy Life says, I'm broke because of Joe and Harris. That's why? How so? They explained that. Dustin said, if Trump wins, you can kiss women's rights goodbye. What rights? What rights are you referring to? What rights do women not have today that they would lose or what rights do women have now that they would lose if Trump wins? Tell me what rights you're talking about. I think men and women have all the same rights as of right now today. Someone said, who's the CEO of the United States? I'm sure that person is over the president. Well, the United States is technically not designed as a corporate structure, but I get what you're saying. We don't know. We don't know those people's names. That's the whole deal. The president is mainly a figurehead. They get all the praise, they get all the blame, but they're not the ones who really make all the decisions. Kamala's losing in aggregate polling in almost every swing state. I've heard that, but you never know with the polls, because in 2016, they said Clinton was going to win, and then that happened. Sailboat said, what a shame you're not using simple logic. I'm not using simple logic? How so? And probably because you disagree with me telling you why Kamala's going to win. But tune in tomorrow when I tell you why Trump's going to win. You'll probably be happy. All right. Kamala's equity means you won't level up. You'll be brought down. Distribution of wealth. Well, that's happening regardless of who wins. That's happening regardless of who wins. The middle class is disappearing regardless of who wins. It may happen slower or faster, but that is absolutely happening. That the middle class is going to disappear. So either you're going to be rich or you're going to be poor. That's happening again. Even if Trump wins, slowly that is taking place. Trump has proven that he's all for himself. A lot of people say that Trump is all about himself. Democrats have been saying that over and over again. Cecilia then says, how many bombs did the United States drop under Trump? Good point. We don't have enough workers, and Trump wants manufacturing. We need immigrants. Some say that. That's one argument for needing immigrants, but it depends. There are many more points to be said along that line. Someone said, I was thinking Mexico was going to pay for it. What happened to that? That was a sales pitch. He didn't mean it literally. He meant it directionally. Again, when people disagree with Trump, they tend to take everything he says and dissect the words literally. When he's speaking directionally, meaning he is trying to paint an image in your mind. Obviously, it worked because you're still repeating what he said, but he's not saying that's literally what he's going to do. Trump does that all the time. And if you understand communication, you can notice some people talk like that and some people talk in a more literal sense. People keep saying Kamala's losing. How much is Trump campaign paying you to talk here? So listen to this. So check this out. So I got two comments here. Somebody said, how much is the Harris campaign paying me to say what I said? And then I got another comment that said, how much is Trump paying me to say what I said? See, that's how you know you're actually doing a good job of formulating your argument, when you got people on both sides telling me that I'm getting paid by the other side to say what I'm saying. So I appreciate those two comments, because that proves that I'm doing exactly what I told you I was going to do, which is give you both sides of the conversation. So they've lost control of censoring conservatives thanks to Elon Musk. Well, that's part of it. That is part of it. But you got to remember, there's still a whole bunch of other apps like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google. All of these still exist. Howard said better economy under Trump. And that one is solid. And until COVID, the economy was doing better. That is true. Trump aligns with dictators, so no wars. And no, it's not. He can't articulate shit, is the comment from JP. Well, if he can't articulate shit, how was he able to win the nomination 3 times? Does that mean? And so let me address that for the people who saying that Trump can't articulate shit and he's just terrible and all. So let me say this. again, this requires you all to put your emotions away and think logically. If he's able to get the Republican nomination 3 times and roughly half the voters vote for him, we know it's not exactly half, but roughly half are voting for him. So let's say 150 million people vote. 75 went to the Democrat, 75 went to the Republican. If Donald Trump has 75 million people supporting him, it's impossible. I believe it is impossible that there are 75 million people that are just completely stupid and dumb and can't think for themselves who all supported him. So when you say he can't articulate shit, or he's all about himself, or he doesn't make any sense, how is it that 75 million people are all fooled by that? There's no way that the 75 million who support the candidate that you like are all the geniuses and the intelligent people, and the 75 million who you hate are all the dummies. That's not possible. And again, this requires you to put your emotions away and think logically. It's not possible that only the people who agree with you are smart and the people who disagree with you are all stupid. All right, that can't be the only conclusion that you come to. All right, TikToker says 2 of the worst presidential candidates ever. All right, that every election people say that you just got to pick one. They're both terrible. So someone says, what is he articulated but bigotry? Again, ask some of the 75 million people who support him. Again, if that's all he's articulating, is no way that there are 75 million people, half the voting Republic, who all are just going with that thing. All right, that's not possible, folks. Give some credit to the people who you disagree with. That's the point that I want you to get to. You can disagree with someone while still giving them credit. It can't be that everybody who votes for Trump is just a complete idiot, and it can't be that everybody who votes for Harris is an idiot. They have reasons for doing so. Someone said Trump 2024 voting from Colorado. So yeah, there's some Coloradans who probably going to vote Trump. I think Colorado's generally a red state. The Leandros, you can let me know. Is Colorado generally red? I think it is, but I'm not sure. Early voting numbers are encouraging for Kamala. Your thoughts? Well, I think it just started, and we'll see. I mean, the answer is we'll see. I think early voting tends to lean towards the left, and early voting has always been a thing, but I think it tends to lean towards the left. And we'll see, because again, this data and these numbers and what it seems like it's doing, we learned in 2016 that we can't go off of that, because every year that Trump's run, it seemed like he was going to lose. But one time he did, and one time he didn't. So he does it on campaign of fear. People respond to that. Well, Harris is doing a campaign of fear as well, isn't she? Didn't she say that women's rights will be taken away if you vote for Trump? Is that not fear? So again, it's easy to point out that truth or fact in one person, but flip it around and point it at the person that you like. Let's see. Bums for Harris, somebody said. AP said, bro, you tripping. You need to vote for Trump. Literally will save our country. I didn't tell you who I'm voting for. I'm voting for myself. Now, if I vote for anybody, I'm voting for myself. The point being, today I'm telling you Kamala, tomorrow I'm going to tell you Trump. So if you want to hear why Trump should win, then tune in tomorrow. Somebody said, I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome. Neither would I. That's why I'm doing both of these. So you seem respectful. Not many Democrats are. Who told y'all that I'm a Democrat? I am not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. So again, everything that I've been saying here today is being borne out in what I'm seeing in these comments. Like, many of you are jumping to conclusions just because I'm saying some stuff that maybe you don't agree with. And again, I'm not giving you my personal, some of this is my personal perspective, but I'm just arguing the point as if a lawyer. I'm arguing the other side on both sides. I'm going to argue why Kamala's going to win. And tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. So again, if you don't like what you're hearing today, tune in tomorrow. You're probably going to like everything I said. Leroy said, I will vote because I have 2 daughters. So Leroy, what you're saying, if you didn't have daughters, you wouldn't vote. If you had 2 sons, you wouldn't vote. Name one thing Kamala Harris has done while VP or DA in San Francisco. You're asking me, what is one thing that she has done? Well, she supported everything that Joe Biden did. That's one thing she did. Now, if you like that, then good. And if you don't like it, bad. All right, Tara, I appreciate you. Be here tomorrow when I talk about why Trump's going to win. O-Dog says, I think California's red is just too much corruption going on for an honest election. Well, yeah, it's been blue for a long time. So it could be red, but with the way that they're doing things now, it'd probably be a long time, because their governor is Newsom is a strong Democrat. And speaking of California, Newsom, all right, Tara, I know I'll see you. Had they had an open primary after Biden dropped out, Newsom would have easily beat Kamala. He would have been the candidate. He would have beat Kamala, and I think he's a stronger candidate than Kamala. But we got what we got. So B says she can't get rolled back. The Supreme Court already ruled. Yeah, well, here's the thing. If she wins, then justices on the Supreme Court, should they step down or get replaced, she can put the other, she can put new justices in, they can come up with a new law. So she technically would have an angle if she wins, but if she doesn't win, then forget about it. Someone said Trump's going to win. Too Little Too Late says Kamala has no kids. Trump just moved it to the States. Yeah, so we know that. So we'll see. Someone says stop spreading lies. What lie am I spreading? If I told a lie, somebody let me know. James Harding said abortion is a tool for politics. Oh, absolutely. It's being used as a tool right now. Truth be told says America is built on business. Therefore, we need a businessman to run it. Good argument. I got to scroll through some of these comments. So some of you left comments. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get to all of these. I'm declaring comment bankruptcy on TikTok. There's too many of them. Ryan said, I'll bet you 237 million that she won't win. Well, just give me a million out of your 237 and bet 236. No, I'm not taking a bet. Kamala the chameleon panders and you fall for it. I haven't fallen for anything. Again, I'm giving you both sides. Both sides. Miles Davis says January 6th was an insurrection. No, it wasn't. Rescue says it was peaceful. You said it was peaceful. It was. Trump said peacefully and patriotically. That's what he said. And not everybody who went to the march did anything violent. That's the issue. So if 10% of the people were violent, does that make the whole event violent or does it make it peaceful? Which one is it? Again, during the BLM riots, there were a bunch of people who were doing violence and there were a bunch of people who were not doing violence. So does that make the riot itself violent or does it make it peaceful? Which one is it? If we got to choose between one or the other, which one is it? EJG says, why are grown men talking about abortion? Because it's a big topic that is helping people or causing people to make certain decisions. And if a woman is pregnant, how she get pregnant? A man has to be involved for the most part. For a woman to get pregnant, it requires a man's sperm. So that's why grown men are talking about abortion. It's their baby too, right? A woman can't get pregnant by herself. Someone said, why can't people get January 6th rest and look to the future? Because talking about January 6th will help people make decisions about this election. S. Springle, appreciate you. It's not about abortion. Do some deeper research and understanding could help. Well, you're asking that's a big ask of people. You're asking people to do research and think. That's a big ask. Okay, Wire Concepts, where can I get merchandise? We haven't really been selling merchandise for a while, but we might start selling it again. Send me a DM. I'll get my assistant to find out what you want. We'll see what we got. Kathy says, Trump's the man for the season. Trump to save America. Dawn B73. Impossible she will win. There's no way that Trump loses, Charles says. So we'll see. That's why we still have an election. Robert says, stop lying, dude. What am I lying about? What's the lie? Please point out the lie. Rick says, you claim January 6th was not an insurrection. It was not an insurrection. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It was not an insurrection. Insurrection is an attempt to overthrow the government. How are you going to overthrow the government with no weapons, no tanks, no guns, no nothing? How are you going to overthrow them? With your fists? No, that was not an insurrection. Why is the president determined by the death of a human being? I don't know what that means. People vote for Trump because he says the quiet part out loud. That is one thing that people like about him. I agree with that. Some people like him because of that. Dang, was watching you when I lost the comment thread. Somebody said they was watching me back in the day. Well, appreciate whoever that was. Thank you. Someone said it was more a riot than anything. Well, yeah, part of it was a riot, but there was a bunch of people there who didn't do anything. They just went to the speech, they listened to the speech, they marched up to the Capitol, and they went home. So is that a riot? Again, not everybody who was there in D.C. on January 6th did anything violent. They didn't do anything illegal, and they didn't get arrested. So are we calling it an insurrection? Are we calling it a riot? Or are we calling it a protest? It was a protest, and it was a speech. But, I mean, again, Chazaz88, appreciate you. Is that a female or a male? All right. If you're saying I look good, I'm only responding to those from females. So anyway. Because the Dems will cheat again by passing no ID requirement for voting law. Yes, exactly. That, I believe, will happen. I don't know if we can say again, but is that something they're angling to do? Yes, I do believe they're angling to do that. That wasn't one of my points, but I understand what you're saying. Pop Polo says, in your opinion, will anyone else involved in January 6th other than Republicans? Well, it's not really my opinion. It's been investigated that, yes, there were plants in the crowd in January 6th that were not there to quote unquote support Trump. They were there as kind of rabble rousers to just stir stuff up. That happens in all of the any protest that happens. You got people there who just stir things up. They're not even there for the actual cause. So that's not an opinion. That's our reality. So someone had, how did Kamala become the nominee with no precedent for it? Yes. And that's something that people made noise about for a while, and then they just stopped talking about it. My favorite book, 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Chad said, I'm a natural born woman. All right, good to hear that. Thank you. Thank you for affirming that. Someone said there's a massive amount of peaceful people there. Yes, exactly. Someone said the Pentagon and Pelosi admitted to declining. Yes, I have read about that. I do know that. L. Wooden said no proof of what? What are you referring to? Janice said Democrats started January 6th. Some people do say that. Says soulful sis. It says soilful, but I think it's probably supposed to be soulful. She says she will win because it's set up as not so much because the people want her. All right, I can see that. I can see that argument. XO said he bought and paid for people. He skipped all my comments. That's what people say when they want me to respond to their comments. So now I just read your comment, XO Handsome. So if you think I was skipping your comments, it's literally 1,000 comments in here. I can't read them all. Cindy says part of democracy is people choosing their candidate. They made it impossible and kept Biden. Someone said Kamala ain't going to win. All right. That's what you think. All right. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you why she's not going to win. I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. Someone said Kamala keeps going down the polls every time she speaks. That is true. That is verified. Yes. Every time she talks, she kind of makes it worse for herself. And Mashonda said, I am spreading misinformation. There's no such thing as misinformation. There's truth and there are lies. No such thing as misinformation. That's a new word that got made up that doesn't mean anything. Ugly Balenciaga says, Kamala pandering to black voters. Yes, of course she is. She ain't got no choice. Yes, she's pandering to black voters. Where are we at? I think I lost it again. Let me see. All right. Sometimes on TikTok, when a bunch of comments come through, they just scroll me to the bottom. Someone said, you working for the government right now. I'm working for the government. All right, where my money at? If I'm working for the government, please tell them to send me my money. All right, if I'm working for the government, please, where's my check? Shit, government got plenty of money, or at least they can print it and give me my money if I'm working for the government. I'd be happy to take that check. Someone said the people that attack the White House are rabble rousers. LOL, they are traitors. Well, you spelled rabble wrong and you spelled traitors wrong, but I get what you're trying to say. So what do I think about Obama going out? Obama was out of line. I said that earlier. Obama was out of line for going to black men and saying, y'all need to support her. She's a woman. And no, that was nonsense. How do I feel about the border? I feel it should be closed. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Having a border that's not enforced is like having rules that are not enforced. If you have a rule, you don't enforce it, it's not a rule. You have a border, you don't enforce it, you don't have a country. That's the reason why we have borders. That's the reason why we have a process you have to follow if you want to become a citizen. You can't just walk in. I can't just go to another country without proper paperwork. They will kick me out. If you show up to a country without a passport, they won't let you in. So thoughts on the Democrats getting Carter to vote? Oh yeah, I saw that on TikTok, not TikTok, X the other day. The guy can't even move his eyes or his mouth or his hands or his face. How did he, quote unquote, vote? Jimmy Carter. How did he vote? He didn't vote. His family voted for him. So Stacy said, I truly feel sorry for people like you. You feel sorry for me? All right, thank you. What's the difference between me and Biden? There's a whole lot of differences. I think we should probably start with the similarities. It'd be a shorter list. So how do you feel about the border? I think I already answered that one. Trump is the momentum in this extremely close election. Yeah, we will see. Someone said he's on a Trump stick like Diddy. That's funny. LOL. All right, why do I want her to win? I didn't say I want her. I said today I'm going to tell you why Kamala's going to win. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump is going to win. So I'm arguing both sides. Okay, today is Kamala, tomorrow's Trump. Okay, so if you don't like what I said today, tune in tomorrow. You're going to be really happy. And if you like what I said today, tune in tomorrow so I can make you mad. All right, who does Border Patrol endorse? I think they endorse Trump, right? I am deeply excited for Harris to win. BLM and Antifa were busting and escorted. Yeah, I've heard that. People have said that. I have heard that. Someone said Harris is not winning anything. Casket the friendly bed. So how do you make your hair look so good? LOL. All right, thoughts on it? I already answered that one. Let's see. If Trump doesn't win, these lib ladies are going to freak when they get drafted. Melly Mel says, okay, then you're saying lies. What's the lie? Point out the lie. Instead of saying that, just tell me what the lie is. Someone said, how did those convicted felon Trump cult get out of the desert in California? I don't know. You should ask them. I wasn't there. Someone said, there was one I wanted to respond to, but it jumped me. I'm going to answer a couple more of these, then it'll be over. I'm going to answer a couple more. Where'd it go? I lost it. I lost some of this. I lost some of the comments that I was trying to respond to. Man, they got it. Someone said, no one is just walking in. Okay, if that's what you believe, that's fine. But the data is the data that people are coming into these countries. Janice says, have you ever been a Democrat? I've never been affiliated with any political party, but I voted for Democrats. I voted for Obama. Why is Puerto Ricans from Puerto Rico not allowed to vote in the general election? Because Puerto Rico is not a state. Someone said, I think you're doing an excellent job keeping the balance. Oh, wait till you hear me tomorrow. Don't say that. Don't speak too soon. Don't speak too soon. All right. Someone said disgraceful. What's disgraceful? What did I do? If you're talking about me. OB Tron said, Kamala ain't shit. How do you really feel? Gigi said, you're my new favorite TikToker. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be somebody's favorite TikToker. Let's see. Trump is every day. Melvin Register said, Trump is your master. My master? I don't think so. Did you hear what I just said over the last hour and a half? Trump's my master. If you were to vote, who would it be? For myself. If I'm voting, I'll vote for I'll write in myself, Dre Baldwin. That might be the only vote that I get. Somebody said Obama with Diddy. We'll see. If Diddy goes to trial, we'll see what happens. Still haven't convinced anyone that Kamala will win. Well, Lane, maybe you came in late. All right, today I'm going to tell you why Kamala's going to win. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you why Trump will win. Okay? So I'm not arguing for either side. Actually, I'm arguing for both sides is what I'm doing, but I'm not on either side. Let's put it that way. Someone said, please expand how Kamala will win. I just did that for the last hour and a half. AU Hunt. So when this is over, just watch the replay. I just took an hour and a half, told you why she's going to win. Without lying, can you convince me why I should vote for Kamala? No, I'm not interested in convincing you of anything. Trying to convince a human being of anything is a bad business to be in. I'm not in the convincing business. Most lawful enforcement is Trump. Who are you? Who am I? My name is Dre Baldwin. The IRS endorses Kamala. Nah, that's not a strong endorsement. The IRS. There's been a massive push for Republicans to vote early. Big change from 2020. Well, we'll see if they actually do it. All right, we'll see. The majority of hamsters are supporting Donald Trump. Well, if hamsters get a vote, then that matters. If they don't, then it doesn't. Mio1 said, I'm glad you said that. I'm not a Trumper, but he's got my vote. Someone said Harris lost the black vote. Well, she has significantly less of it than Obama had. We can say that. All right. I'm going to answer a couple more comments, then we got to go because I got to go to the bathroom. I've been sitting here for 2 hours. All right. Sherry says Trump has at least 22% of the black vote, which is massive. Yes, that is massive. That is correct. That is massive. Someone says, so why are you on here? On here, what are you referring to? Bevy says you probably ain't read any of those books behind you. Well, being that every book behind me that you can see is a book that I wrote, I think you are mistaken. Spend an hour and a half straight on TikTok is already an L, my G. All right, if you say so. Thank you for that input. Tomorrow I'm going to do it again. So I guess that's back-to-back L's for me. Morgan says, what's your opinion on Obama right now? Well, I mean, he's a Democrat, so he's doing his duty. Now, what he said to black men about supporting a black woman was out of line. He was out of line saying that, but I understand why he's doing it. He's a Democrat, so he's doing his job. So I'm not mad at him for doing his job, but at the same time, he was completely out of line for saying what he said. I posted that on Instagram the other day. Look at my Instagram. I got a post where I talked about that. That dude said, give me one reason why she should win. Should win? I don't have a reason. Why she might win? One reason is because people hate Donald Trump. That's a good reason. That's a good enough reason for a bunch of voters. So whether you agree with it or not is not the point. But the fact that it's true, yes, that is true. Ugly Valencia says, this is very interesting. Thank you. I'm glad that it's interesting. Samantha says, just joining. Kamala Harris 2024. Well, great, Samantha. You should watch the replay so you can see everything I said about why Kamala's going to win. And also, Samantha, you seem excited that I said that. Tune in tomorrow where I make you mad because I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win. All right, so all of you who are excited about what I did today, tune in tomorrow and I'm going to piss you off. And all y'all who are pissed off about what I said today, tune in tomorrow. I'm going to make you happy. All right, this is what I do. All right, I'm not on any side. And the only affiliation I have is to performance, consistency, and results. That's what I do in my business. I am not a politician. I'm not paid by any political party. But if they want to pay me, I'll take their money. But nobody's going to pay me because I will argue both sides so they wouldn't pay me. They only pay me if I only argue their side, which ain't going to happen. Let's see. Sebastian said, I'm scared of having a minority in office. Trump will make America pure again. Now, you're probably trolling, but okay, fine. There are some people who truly believe that, so maybe. Byron said, why was he out of line? He was out of line because he was telling people to vote for Kamala because she's a woman in black instead of using actual logic and rational points of why to vote for her. So he was out of line by even saying that. That's why he was out of line. He should say vote for her because she's going to help you get A, B, C, D. Instead, he said vote for her because she's a woman and because she's a person of color. That's out of line. Now, he was the president. Obama's no dummy. So he should be able to articulate some actual substance rather than just saying vote for her because she's a woman or because she's black. And again, I posted about that on Instagram. Scoob, old man, said Obama tried to race shame. Yes, that's exactly what he did. Yes. He tried to race shame. He said, you got to vote for her because she's black. All right, that's a nonsense reason. Someone said, is India black too? Lord, I talked about this earlier. Lotus rise to sun. I addressed that earlier. I'm going to address that again tomorrow. I say person of color. I use black because it's easier to say than say person of color takes too long to say. So I said black, but I mean person of color. Is Kamala actually black? We don't know. Tomorrow, I'm going to address that in much more detail when I talk about why Trump will win in 2024. Okay, so is India black? No. All right, but if she's Jamaican, that makes her black. But we don't know she's Jamaican because her dad's Jamaican. He's alive. And he hasn't said anything. So is Kamala actually black? We don't know. Okay, so I'm on the record again. I said that like 10 times here today. Okay. So someone said vote red. Princess 1969 says vote red. Well, a lot of people will. All right. Vote for another white brother. I don't know what that means. The wealthy select the president electoral college. Yes. Obama working on the third term. Well, he should have put his wife up. His wife would have beat Kamala. That would have happened. Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom would have beat Kamala had they had an open primary. Guaranteed. It wouldn't even been close. Howard said Candace knows. Yeah, I've been seeing Candace on YouTube talking about it. I've heard Kamala say she was Indian. Me too. Me too. And now she's saying she's black because it will help her politically. I get why she's doing it. I'm not mad at her for doing it. But is she actually black? We don't know. We don't know. I got to go to the bathroom, folks. All right, I'm going to do a couple more and then we're going to wrap this up. Someone said, who would want Kamala to win? Look at the last few years. That's a good argument. Excuse me. That's a good argument. Do politics, Dre? What do you mean? Like get involved in politics? No, I would never get involved in politics because you have to lie to be a politician. And I can't lie to people for a living. I can lie, temporarily. I can't keep lying all day, every day. To be a politician, you must lie. Someone said Michael Obama. Someone said they're getting ready to switch Harris out for Big Mike. No, that's not going to happen. Kamala Chameleon. Candace Owens did a whole video. Yeah, I've seen it. She's done a series of videos. And she was saying, I saw the last one. She said she was going on vacation, so she would be back with more when she came back from vacation. So that should be soon. She should be back doing it. So I have seen the Candace Owens videos. I like Candace Owens. I'm a fan of Candace. I believe she is a critical thinker, whether you agree with her conclusions or not. I agree. I like the fact that she looks deeply into this stuff. She's doing investigative journalism. Leo was good. Used to watch the basketball stuff. Tia said, leave Michelle out of the conversation. No, Michelle's in the conversation. Because had Michelle actually gotten to a primary against Kamala, she would have dragged Kamala easily. And she'd be the nominee right now. And she'd have a much better chance of beating Trump than Kamala has. Someone said, why do I think Kamala will win? I just talked about it for 2 hours. I just did 2 hours of telling you why Kamala's going to win. All right, everybody. So I got to the bottom of this. I could respond to comments all day. Obviously, y'all keep going. So tomorrow, all right, let me be clear, okay? Let me help all of you out. For those of you who don't know me, all right, my name is Dre Baldwin. I'm not a politician. I don't often even talk about politics. Sometimes I talk about current events. I usually talk about mindset, business, and personal growth, achievement, and success. That's usually what I talk about. But every once in a while, I dip into current events like I did here today. Being that the election's coming up and everybody has something to say, obviously, because all y'all are watching this. This might be my most viewed live that I ever did, especially on TikTok. So I appreciate all of you with this. Here's what we're doing. Today, I did a live explaining why Kamala is going to win in 2024. Tomorrow, I'm going to do another live. I'm going to tell you why Trump's going to win 2024. So if you are excited about what I said today, tomorrow I'm going to make you mad. And if you are mad about what I said today, tomorrow I'm going to make you happy. So tune in tomorrow so you can hear me give the other side of this argument, why Trump is going to win 2024. I'm going to give you 5 points for Trump, same way I gave you 5 points for Kamala. Okay, so if you tomorrow, 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Okay, 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. I do these lives every Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It's not always politics or current events, but the way this one is going, maybe I should just talk about current events. Maybe I should stop talking about business and just start talking about politics. Y'all are a lot more excited to talk about this than you are excited to talk about personal growth and mindset and resilience and entrepreneurship. I'm getting much more engagement talking about this than I got talking about that stuff. So maybe I'll just flip my whole script and get into a new business. I'm talking about current events because y'all seem to be really excited about the subject. I'm joking. I'm not doing that, but I will talk about current events when it's necessary. So today was Kamala, tomorrow was Trump. Did everybody hear that? Today was Kamala, tomorrow was Trump. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I am not a Harris supporter. I am not MAGA. I'm not a Trump supporter. I am just an independent person with an ability to think critically and an ability to argue both sides of a conversation. That's what I'm doing here today. I'm going to do the same thing again tomorrow. Do not peg me on either side of this conversation because I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on my side. I'm on your side, the side of game. All right, I'm on the side of game. You know what game means? Game means the abilities and skills you need to have so that you can achieve the maximum success in your life. I don't care if the president is Democrat. I don't care if the president is Republican. Your job over the next 4 years is to become more successful regardless of who wins. All right, so everybody clear on who I am, where I'm coming from, and what I'm about. Do not put me on any side of this political conversation. I don't give a damn about either side. Because neither side is designed to do anything, quote unquote, for you. You are designed to do it for yourself. Everybody got that? Everybody clear? Any questions? I know y'all got questions, but tomorrow I'm going to do Trump. Everybody heard me? Did everybody hear me? Okay, tomorrow I'm going to do Trump. Today was Kamala. Tomorrow was Trump. I said that like 50 times here today. I've been on here for 2 hours. I drank a lot of water. I work out this morning. I need to go to the bathroom. I will see you all tomorrow. Work on your game. Oh yeah, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to work with me directly? What I do for a living, which is not this. All right. Workonyourgameuniversity.com is the link in my bio. Everybody heard me. Work on Your Game University is the link in my bio. My battery's about to die over here on this. I need to get it here off TikTok. All right. Work on Your Game University. I gotta go to the bathroom. Everybody have a great day. See y'all tomorrow.